For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of August 10, 2015, 26-year-old Lucas "Luke" Moreno trailered his boat out solo at dawn from a Florida Keys ramp, bound for the unforgiving Everglades backcountry. He never returned. Despite an extensive search across hundreds of square miles of dense mangrove and water, Luke Moreno vanished without a trace. For 5 agonizing years, his family lived with relentless uncertainty, desperate for any sign. Then, in 2020, a discovery was made deep within the Lostman's River, a barnacle-crusted dive watch still ticking. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Lucas Moreno and the meticulous scientific quest to uncover his final moments in one of Florida's most perilous wildernesses. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Lucas "Luke" Moreno, a 26-year-old with a profound connection to Florida's waterways, was a dedicated flats angler. His life revolved around the intricate ecosystems of the Everglades, a vast and often unforgiving wilderness that served as both his passion and his preferred escape. Luke possessed an intimate knowledge of its winding channels, shallow flats, and dense mangrove forests, particularly the remote Lostman's River backcountry, an area he navigated with seasoned expertise. It was into this formidable environment that Luke ventured on a crisp morning in 2015. Long before dawn, a time when the glades were still shrouded in mist and silence, he meticulously prepared his flats boat. This ritual was a familiar one, honed over years of early departures. His vessel, designed for the shallow waters, was loaded with gear, and by the first hint of twilight, he had trailered it to the launch point. His journey into the backcountry was a solo expedition, a common practice for Luke, who valued the solitude and challenge of the deep Everglades. He launched his boat and disappeared into the labyrinthine waterways, expected to return by late afternoon. As the hours passed and the sun climbed high, then began its descent towards the western horizon, a quiet unease began to settle. Luke's usual check-in calls did not materialize. Attempts to reach him by phone went unanswered, the calls eventually routing to voicemail. What began as mild concern steadily escalated into a chilling realization. Luke Moreno was not simply delayed, he had vanished. The alarm was raised as darkness fell, transforming the unease into a desperate urgency. An immediate distress call was placed, activating local law enforcement and search and rescue teams. The vastness of the Everglades, a place of unparalleled natural beauty, now loomed as an impenetrable maze. The initial search efforts commenced in the darkness, targeting the expansive Lostman's River backcountry, the last known general area of Luke's intended journey. A skilled angler, intimately familiar with his surroundings, had simply disappeared without a trace, leaving behind an overwhelming mystery and a profound, unsettling silence. The distress call, made under the cloak of deepening night, triggered an immediate and extensive search operation. Across the Lostman's River backcountry, a vast armada of airboats, shallow draft vessels, and helicopters mobilized. Leading the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC, efforts was Officer Danny Holt, a veteran of countless Everglades search and rescue missions. Her experience with the region's unforgiving nature was invaluable, as was the potential insight of local experts like airboat guide Reggie Flores, whose intimate knowledge of the labyrinthine waterways and hidden dangers made him a critical, if informal, asset in such desperate situations. The challenges confronting the search teams were immense. The Everglades, a sprawling wilderness of over 15 million acres, presented an almost impenetrable barrier. Dense mangrove forests, their roots forming an interlocking mesh above and below the waterline, created an environment where a small boat or a person could disappear without a trace. Shallow, winding channels, often no wider than a small skiff, could become impassable at low tide, while the vastness of the open flats offered countless places for a vessel to drift unseen. The oppressive heat, the sudden, violent thunderstorms, and the ever-present threat of wildlife further complicated the already perilous undertaking. Despite the relentless efforts, which continued day and night, the search yielded nothing. There was no telltale oil slick, no fragment of fiberglass, no discarded cooler. No personal item that could offer a single clue to Luke's fate or the location of his vessel. The absence of any wreckage was particularly perplexing for investigators like Officer Holt. A boat, even if capsized, typically leaves some trace. As days bled into weeks, the initial surge of hope, fueled by the sheer scale of the operation, began to wane. The active search efforts, once covering vast swathes of the backcountry, were gradually scaled back, then ultimately suspended. The wilderness had swallowed Luke Moreno whole, leaving behind only the haunting question of how. The cessation of active search efforts left behind an agonizing vacuum of unanswered questions. For Luke Moreno's family, the silence was deafening, the lack of a body, or even a single piece of wreckage, a constant, brutal torment. The community, initially united in frantic hope, slowly receded into a shared bewilderment. How could a skilled angler, intimately familiar with the treacherous beauty of the Everglades, simply disappear without a trace? The official reports were filed, the case designated as a missing person. But without any evidence of foul play or an accident, it settled into a haunting, irresolvable limbo. The enduring mystery of Luke's vanishing became a local legend, a cautionary tale whispered among those who ventured into the backcountry. His boat, his gear, and Luke himself had been swallowed by the vast wilderness, leaving no breadcrumbs for investigators to follow. It was a perplexing enigma for FWC officer Danny Holt, who had led the initial search. The professional frustration of an unsolved case, a life vanished without explanation, weighed heavily on her. She had seen the Glades claim lives before, but rarely with such utter finality, leaving not even a ripple of evidence that could point to a cause or location. The sheer absence of any clue was as baffling as it was frustrating. As the weeks turned into months, and then into years, the case grew colder. 5 years passed since Luke Moreno launched his boat into the dawn mist of 2015. The initial urgency faded, public interest waned, and the official files were archived, gathering dust in police archives. Yet for those directly touched by the disappearance, the passage of time did little to dull the pain or the gnawing uncertainty. Airboat guide Reggie Flores, a man who knew the Everglades' every mood, carried the weight of the unsolved mystery. It served as a stark, ever-present reminder of the Glades' capacity for both breathtaking beauty and sudden, absolute peril. He, like many others who understood the true nature of the wilderness, often found himself scanning the horizon, a subconscious search for a sign, any sign that might finally break the silence. The case had gone cold, but it was not forgotten. It was a waiting game, a silent plea for a breakthrough that seemed increasingly unlikely with each passing season, leaving a persistent, gnawing uncertainty that plagued everyone involved. The story, however, was far from over. 5 years had passed since Lucas Moreno disappeared into the Everglades. The calendar had turned from 2015 to 2020, marking half a decade of unanswered questions, of a family's enduring grief, and a law enforcement file that had long since been relegated to the cold case archives. The vast, indifferent wilderness had held its secrets, allowing the memory of Luke's vanishing to fade from public consciousness, even as it remained a sharp, unhealed wound for those closest to him. The hope of finding any trace had dwindled to a faint ember, kept alive more by stubborn love than by any tangible lead. Then, against all odds, the silence was broken. In the spring of 2020, a lone fisherman navigating a remote channel deep within the Lostman's River backcountry made an astonishing discovery. Snagged amidst the gnarled, intertwining roots of a red mangrove, partially submerged in the brackish water and obscured by years of tidal debris, was a small, barnacle-crusted object. It was a dive watch, its metal casing encrusted with marine growth, its strap entangled in the resilient mangrove network. The location was precisely the kind of overlooked, inaccessible spot where a small item could lie undisturbed for years, defying even the most rigorous initial searches. What made the find truly extraordinary, almost eerie, was its condition. Despite the relentless passage of time and the harsh environment, the watch was still ticking. Powered by its solar reserve, its hands continued their slow, steady march, a silent, persistent testament to the resilience of its mechanism and a poignant symbol of the life it once accompanied. It was a profound, almost spiritual detail, that immediately elevated the discovery beyond a mere piece of discarded marine litter. Upon recovery, the watch was carefully cleaned, revealing distinctive markings and a serial number. A quick cross-reference against missing persons reports and stolen property databases yielded an immediate, electrifying match. The dive watch belonged to Lucas Luke Moreno. The impossible had happened. After 5 years of absolute silence, a single tangible piece of Luke had resurfaced from the depths of the Everglades. This small, barnacle-encrusted timepiece instantly transformed a long-dormant cold case into a live, urgent investigation. It was the first real lead in years, a glimmer of hope cutting through the persistent darkness, promising not just a clue, but perhaps, finally, the beginning of an answer. The recovery of Luke Moreno's dive watch, still ticking after 5 years submerged in the Everglades, instantly galvanized the cold case. This single extraordinary artifact became the focal point of a renewed investigation. The watch was immediately transported to a specialized forensic laboratory, treated not merely as a personal effect, but as a critical piece of evidence. Every barnacle, every speck of silt, every minute scratch on its casing held potential clues to Luke's final moments. Technicians meticulously documented its condition, photographing it from every angle before carefully removing the marine growth and extracting samples for analysis. The integrity of the watch's internal mechanisms, still operating on solar reserve, was also noted, a testament to its robust design and the peculiar conditions of its resting place. To unlock the secrets held within the watch, investigators brought in Dr. Annika Shah, a forensic oceanographer with a reputation for deciphering complex marine environments. Dr. Shah's expertise lay in analyzing the minute biological and physical traces left by the ocean and its waterways. Her task was to examine the barnacle species adhering to the watch, the specific composition of the silt trapped within its strap and crevices, and the wear patterns on its metal and crystal. These seemingly insignificant details could, she believed, reconstruct a timeline and geographic history of the watch's journey through the Everglades. Meanwhile, FWC officer Danny Holt, who had overseen the initial fruitless search, found herself back in the familiar, yet now profoundly altered landscape of the Lostman's River backcountry. With the watch's discovery location as a new epicenter, her team re-engaged with the wilderness. The previous searches had been broad, almost desperate. This new effort was precise, guided by a tangible point of origin. Investigators began to formulate new hypotheses. The fact that the watch had been snagged in mangrove roots suggested a specific type of drift, perhaps from a capsized vessel that had broken apart or a body swept into the dense vegetation. Dr. Shah's preliminary findings, combined with the watch's remarkable condition, began to shape these theories. The species of barnacles, for instance, could indicate water salinity and depth, while the silt's composition might point to specific types of riverbed or bank. This confluence of forensic science and on-the-ground observation allowed investigators to begin narrowing down potential areas for further search. They hoped that by understanding the watch's journey, they could finally locate more fragments of the truth, perhaps even Luke's vessel, and with it the answers that had eluded them for half a decade. Dr. Annika Shah's painstaking forensic analysis of Luke Moreno's dive watch eventually yielded the breakthrough investigators had desperately sought. Her examination extended beyond the barnacles and surface grime, delving into the minute particles trapped within the watch's mechanisms and, crucially, inside the watch strap itself. It was here that she discovered a specific composition of silt, a unique signature of fine sediment. Through advanced geological and hydrological mapping, Dr. Shah identified this silt as originating from the prop wash plumes found in a narrow, previously unexamined cut deep within the Lostman's River backcountry. This specific channel, known for its strong currents and tight confines, had been deemed too insignificant or too remote for initial broad searches. With this pivotal silt match, Dr. Shah then deployed sophisticated tide models. These complex simulations allowed her to reconstruct the water flow and current patterns for the exact day of Luke's disappearance in 2015. By integrating the location of the silt's origin with the precise time and location of Luke's last known radio ping, she was able to reframe the entire sequence of events. The models demonstrated how a vessel passing through that narrow cut, particularly at a specific tidal phase, could have created a powerful, localized disturbance. This disturbance, combined with the inherent dangers of the channel, could have led to a catastrophic event. The culmination of Dr. Shah's scientific detective work was a precise geographical pinpoint, a specific capsized drift channel directly downstream from the narrow cut. This channel, characterized by its hidden snags and turbulent eddies, was identified as the most probable location where Luke's boat met its end. The tide models showed how the watch, once separated from Luke, would have been carried by the currents, eventually snagging in the mangrove roots exactly where it was found 5 years later. To validate these scientific findings, FWC officer Danny Holt consulted airboat guide Reggie Flores. His extensive, intimate knowledge of the Lostman's River backcountry proved invaluable. Flores confirmed the existence and treacherous characteristics of the drift channel identified by Dr. Shah, recounting past incidents and local lore that underscored its peril. His anecdotal evidence provided a crucial real-world confirmation for the scientific models, adding a layer of credibility to the emerging theory. With this combined evidence, investigators could now reconstruct a plausible sequence of events. Luke's boat likely capsized in the hazardous drift channel after navigating the narrow cut, leading to his disappearance and the subsequent silent journey of his watch. The convergence of Dr. Anika Shah's scientific precision and Reggie Flores' invaluable local knowledge finally illuminated the tragic fate of Luke Moreno. The evidence pointed unequivocally to a catastrophic event. Luke's boat had capsized in the treacherous drift channel downstream from the narrow cut. The powerful prop wash plumes, specific tidal conditions, and the channel's hidden perils had conspired against him, leading to the sudden and violent overturning of his vessel. This reconstruction, meticulously built from the microscopic silt within a dive watch and sophisticated oceanic modeling, provided a definitive answer to the 5-year-old enigma, showcasing the profound power of forensic oceanography to unravel seemingly impossible mysteries. Yet the resolution, while profound, was incomplete. The truth of how and where Luke's disappearance occurred was now known, offering a measure of clarity that had long eluded his family. This understanding brought a form of closure, a framework within which to process their grief. However, the Everglades, in its vast indifference, continued to hold its ultimate secret. Neither Luke's body nor the full wreckage of his boat was ever recovered, swallowed by the depths and dense vegetation, a stark reminder of the wilderness's ultimate power. For Dr. Anika Shah, the case reinforced her belief in the silent stories held within the smallest details. She reflected on how a single barnacle-encrusted watch could speak volumes across years, guiding investigators to a truth that brute force searches could never uncover. Officer Danny Holt, having carried the weight of the unsolved case for half a decade, found quiet satisfaction in the outcome. It was a testament to the unwavering dedication of law enforcement and the enduring hope that no case is truly beyond resolution. Reggie Flores, the seasoned airboat guide, saw Luke's story as a somber, enduring lesson. The Everglades, he mused, demanded respect, a constant vigilance against its sudden, absolute perils. It was a beautiful but unforgiving place. The legacy of Luke Moreno's vanishing extended beyond his family's private sorrow. His story became a powerful, albeit tragic, reminder of the Everglades' raw power and the critical importance of marine safety. It underscored the relentless pursuit of truth, demonstrating that even after half a decade of silence, science and perseverance could converge to bring answers. The mystery of Luke Moreno had been solved, not with the recovery of the lost, but with the profound understanding of his final moments, a bittersweet end to a 5-year enigma that had finally yielded its secrets.